This is Cat 45 again, and today I'll be showing y'all how to process yucca leaves. First of all, you'll need to know what yucca is, so I'll take you outside and show you here in a minute what yucca looks like. It's called many other names, Spanish bayonet. There's a couple of others, but most people just call it yucca. And you'll need a few tools to process it, so I'll show you what you all need. Any old Mora knife or knives would definitely be helpful. You can get the kind with the chisel grind, like that, which that'll help you in scraping, but it's not an absolute necessity. You can have just something like this too. If you can get something that's halfway dull, so you can bear down and scrape with it, that'll help. And yucca, after it's processed, you can process it down to the fine fibers, which look like this right here. You can get it a little bit finer also, or you can just process it down to the strips, which look a little bit rougher and more green. However, if you're going to do anything like weaving or making cordage, you'd be better off processing it down to the soft fibers. So let's go outside and show you what yucca looks like. Alright, this is the yucca plant here. You all probably recognize this. It's more common out in the Southwest. I live in East Tennessee, but we do get it here. I'm not sure if it's natural or if it's just kind of escaped from cultivation, people planting it for decoration. We've had ours for about 20-25 years, actually about 25 or more years. My mom wanted some years ago, so she got my dad to go dig up some, and he planted a couple here, and they've been growing quite well. Now what you want to do, if you're going to be using it for cordage, you want to try to get the longest, straightest, best leaves, something like this. And if you all want to be a little bit how should I say it, politically correctly, ecologically sound, cut the leaves from the edges. That way they're going to be the ones that'll be dying off anyways. Now be careful, there's a lot of little bugs and stuff here, as you all can see, growing along it. So pick out your leaf. There we go, that should do it. Now in season, in summer or in the spring, they start growing a tall spike up out of them, and needless to say, out in the west or in drier and more favorable locales, these grow a heck of a lot bigger. Sometimes those spikes grow up to about 6 feet or more. Even the one here grows up about that long, up to about where Mr. Kitty is. And the flowers, they're edible. The flowers, once they go to seed, at least, they're edible. The flowers you can eat also. You can boil them up and mash them down into patties like the Indians did. You can boil them up and just dip them in sour cream and eat them. However, I have tried one and it's kind of got a soapy taste. In fact, everything about the soap, about the plant, is kind of soapy. It's also, one of its biggest uses is as soap, of course. You can take the leaves down and strip them down into fibers and get them wet and just scrub them between your hands like you're soaping them up, and it does release kind of a sudsy soap. Now you're not going to be getting dial quality suds or something, but it will definitely get your hands and body clean, and it's also going to do a little scrubbing. And of course, being that it's pretty rough, there's a lot of ways you can use the plant, but right now we're only going to concentrate on the leaves. Alright, first of all, it is best if you let the leaves wilt for a couple of days or so. When you first get them, they're going to be a little bit stiff, so it is best to let them rest a little bit for a couple of days, and they will loosen up and, well, wilt. However, since this is on camera, we don't have time, and this camera don't have pause, so I can't put it on pause and come back in a couple of days. So first of all, what you want to do, of course, is wash them. Get all the little bugs off of them. Now, first of all, what you're also going to need is something something round and smooth. On the way outside, actually, I just got a couple of these rocks. Something that you're going to have to pound it with. You can strip it down without pounding. However, if you're going to make cordage out of it, you're going to want something smooth. A lot of the books, they tell you just get a rock or so and pound the cordage. However, you do want something smooth because the fibers will get broken. You'll cut the fibers if you use a rough knife. Afterwards, cut off the very end of the leaf, about where you're, it depends how long you want the cordage. I usually cut it off right about there, a couple of inches. And also the other end, it's very stiff. It does have some good cordage in it, so it kind of depends how long your leaf is. These leaves are about 18 inches long, so I'm going to try to use as much of that as I can. Afterwards, just start pounding the leaf to loosen up the fibers. Now I had a little tenderizing hammer here that I used. The back of it was smooth and flat, but it seems to have disappeared along somewhere around here. So I can just use a rock like the old Indians did. It works just fine. Now this is what you're going to want. As you can see, the fibers are already starting to break apart. And that's what you want. You want them to break apart that way. You don't want to, cut them that way, of course. So that's what you're wanting. How far you go with this depends on your patience. Of course, I'm on camera. I'm not going to be able to do it as long as I normally would. I'm going to have to kind of do it a very abbreviated process. So after you've given the leaf a pretty good pounding, we'll pretend that that's a good pounding. Normally you do a fairly decent pounding along the whole length of the leaf. What you want to do is scrape. Now you can use just about anything. You could use a knife, you could use a dull knife, you could use an axe, you can use a one-sided knife, whatever. Start from this end right here, hold on to it, and just start slowly scraping. Now don't bear down because you'll cut the fibers. You can go this way, you can go the other way, whatever. Right now you're not wanting to get, to the very fibers. All you're wanting to do is take off some of the fleshy pulp, the green stuff. Now this is the stuff that makes good soap. Here in a minute I'll show you. try a dull knife, see how that works. Works just fine. Less danger of cutting the fibers. You can bear down harder. From now on, pretty much the scraping is the name of the game. The more you scrape, the better the quality of the fibers are going to be. And you also have to wash the fibers. Once you scrape off one side, what you'll have to do is put it under, preferably running water, and agitate it, just wash it. And with your thumbs, squeegee out the moisture. What you're trying to do, of course, again, is get the fleshy pulp out from between the fibers and loosen up all the individual strands of the fibers and clean them. The pounding should have loosened them up, and the scraping removes them. Now, if you're not a patient man, this is not what you need to be doing. Because patience is definitely the name of the game. The more patient you are, the better your results are going to be. Now you can see, I'm not sure where it focuses on this camera, but you all could probably see the individual fibers in there. Now each of the fibers are about that thin. It definitely helps to have somewhat of a dull knife. If you've got a smooth butter knife without the little serrations on it that you can scrape with or something like that, that'll work perfectly. Now this green slimy pulp, you definitely don't have to throw that away. You can save that, let that dry out, and keep that, and you can use that for soap. So everything's got its uses and potential. In a survival situation, or when you're taking things from nature, you want to make sure you use everything that you possibly can and don't waste any of it. You want to be respectful to the plant or the animal or whatever resource you're using, and use every part of it. That's not just an old superstition or Indian belief. That's also, among the ecologically sound among us, politically correctly said, because these things are, of course, from nature, and if you waste them, there not going to be any more of them eventually. Not only that, but yucca is kind of like a supermarket or a Walmart. Every part of it has a different use that you can use for. You can eat the flowers, you can eat the fruits, you can use the fibers from the leaves, the stalk you can use for hand drills, you can use them for just about anything. You can make arrows if you had to out of them, you can make spear shafts out of them if you get one long and straight enough. Out west or wherever they grow thick and long enough, you can cut a piece about 2 or 3 foot long and hollow it out and use it for an arrow quiver. I've seen that a lot in the magazines. Unfortunately, this is East Tennessee, not Arizona, so we don't get a lot of them growing out here that thick. But I've seen pictures of yucca, stalks about that big. And around here we get about that big. But in summer, whenever I have a chance, I usually cut as many of these I can find, and I keep them for hand drill sets, bow drill sets, or whatever. You can make primitive style knife handles for a basket maker style knife. You can do a lot of different things with it. Well, this side is about scraped clean. Normally I would do it a lot better than that, but like I said, constraints. And you'll see it start to come apart, just about. Start on the other side and do the same thing. Another thing I want to point out is the board or surface that you're working on. You want it to be as smooth as possible. This right here is just a piece of pine, but it could be a little bit smoother, because when you scrape, the fibers are going to stick up, and if you do a wrong move, you'll end up scraping through or cutting the fibers. And that's where you get a lot of length in the fibers, is the middle. So you definitely want to be careful. I've heard stories that the old natives, they used to take the leaves, whether they're stripped or into fibers or pieces or what, I don't know, put it in their mouth, and they would just pull it to their teeth and scrape off the pulp. And I have no reason to doubt that. I'm sure they could. But I'm not like that, and not only that, it's disgusting. It tastes soapy. So unless you're absolutely in a have-to situation, I wouldn't do that. Or in case you like to taste the soap. On this end right here, you can bear down just a little bit harder, the thicker end, mash it out. This one, a smooth round surface such as the back of a old hunting knife works pretty good, or just the back of a knife where you can scrape down and bear on it. Very outside edges, be real careful. That's where you can do a lot of damage cutting the fibers. Now inevitably there's going to be some loss, as you can see, like even here on the edges there's some fibers cutting, but just try your best. want to, if you're going to save the pulp for soap, if you all wear Native American silver and turquoise jewelry, I've read a lot of times that the Navajos use that yucca suds to clean and shine their silver. Being as it is fairly mild, you know, I would say that it's a fairly safe thing to use on your silver and on your turquoise. Certainly better than a lot of the harsh cleaners that are out there now that they tell you to use. There we go. And that's about what you're looking for. When it starts looking, I guess what I can compare it to is when it starts looking like a corn husk or a corn leaf. That's when you're getting finished. If you can see that. See how the fibers, you can see through the leaf. It's starting to look like a corn husk. And that's what you're after. Alright, I'll show you all the washing process. Y'all could use cold water, warm water, whatever. You don't even have to use running water. Since I have it, I'll use it. I'll show you all some of the soap here. That's what you can expect from the yucca suds. Kind of a green. You're not going to get suds like, you know, ivory or dial, of course, but if you're out in the wilderness or haven't been able to take a shower or bathe or wash, that right there is going to do a lot to keep it clean, and it'll make it smell better too. It smells a little green and grassy, but better than sweat. And that's what you can expect about right there. You can also probably use this stuff, needless to say, for dye or for color, for paint, because as green as that is, I'd say if you squeeze that out into a little container and let that evaporate, make some good green paint. Maybe that'll be another video. Anyway, getting back to the leaf. Trying to loosen it up and break it up a little bit carefully. Now I'm going to have to tell you, one washing is not going to do it. That's just the very start of it. You're going to have at least 2 or 3 or more washings to get rid of all that pulp. So the better you scrape it and pound it when you start, the easier it is going to be to wash out the pulp. Whenever you do get finished with it, you can just scrape out the water and some of the remaining pulp real easily. It don't have to be an edged instrument, I have to say, because you can use anything really. You can use your thumb, whatever. But if you have a slight edge like the back of the blade, it helps to squeegee out the water. You'll see it breaking up more and more. Now, how far you go is up to you, of course. You don't have to get it to the fine, almost silky fibers. That's if you want to use it to its full potential. If you're going to weave something out of it, you can do a lot of things. You can weave tump lines out of it for carrying loads. You can use it for making bags, and you can even use it for making like purse-like bags and containers and things like that. You can use it for making netting. I use a lot of the yucca cordage to tie kind of a retaining net, a holding net for my Southwest style gourd water bottles. Something to hold it and carry it with. And since yucca cordage is very indigenous to the area, it's a fairly authentic use for it. But that's what you're going to want to start getting now, are these fibers. Now, I'm not going to sit here for hours and hours and separate each one, because that's what you're going to have to do. Like I said, depending on how fine you want it to get and what you need. You can take it down to individual fibers. If you need to make cordage, you don't have to do that. Like I said, eventually you can get down to something like this. And even this is not as fine as it can get. Even this will get a lot finer. Now, if you want to make cordage out of it, or if you're just in a hurry, get yourself a few fibers. Divide them up into 2 bundles, like so. You can either do it the old-fashioned way by just twisting it, or you can tie it off. So I'll show you the old-fashioned way first. Just start twisting it. And eventually it'll want to kink. So I'll just make that kink there for you so you can see. Now hold that. This camera makes everything hard. Hold that like so. Pinch it right a little bit, not quite in the middle. Take 1/2 of the fibers while you're holding the little loop in one hand or in one, between your fingers. Twist it to the right and move it over, fold it over the left, to the left. Now take this shorter bundle, twist it to the right, and again fold it over to the left. Continue doing so. Now these aren't perfectly even, of course. This is kind of rough, but you'll get the idea. Twist it to the right, fold it over to the left, and keep on doing that. Sometimes it helps if you tie it off. Take the loop it over something, or tie the cordage off first over a branch or a peg or something like that. And that's what you're going to start getting. Now, a lot of you are asking probably why the shorter end. Well, this shorter end here, these shorter ends, when you come to about 1 inch or 2, I like to use about 2 inches actually, take some more strands and put them in there and twist them together. That way you keep it going. There we go. Kind of wants to tangle up a little bit. And that's what you're going to be getting. And that right there is some very, very thick and tough cordage. Now when it comes to about the end, take a few fibers the same size. Now I can't stress hard enough that you want to keep both sides the same size. Mine's not very neat, but I could be doing better, but of course I'm fairly rushed. Add those fibers. You don't have to have them all pointing one way. You can stagger them the one way and the end of it the other way if you need to. That way it doesn't all bunch up thick at one end. And you can add more cordage anytime you need to. I'm doing it more from a aesthetic point right now to this side, just to keep it even. By the way, yucca cordage is one of the toughest and strongest fibers on the North American continent out of all the plants. I believe it's the first or second strongest. So it's a pretty tough fiber and it works. You can use it for a lot of things. And when you get to the little tag ends hanging off, you can cut those. I'm doing it now just to show you all a better picture of it. And like I said, this isn't the best yucca cordage I've ever made. This is just hurried. It's just rough cordage. But there ain't no way you can break that. This stuff is tough. There's a lot of different things you could do with it actually. A lot of the Native Americans, they would take the leaves when they were still green and slightly move them over a fire, roast them until they blistered, until the liquid started coming out of them, and then lash whatever they're wanting to lash with it. And when treated that way, it was called pita. And when they dried out, they shrunk up and tightened, kind of like rawhide does when it's wet. And it was it was just like, just like iron. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this fiber, and once you start twisting it and cording it and get the process down, it kind of comes to you, naturally, and it goes quite fast. That's really all there is to it, making yucca cordage. This is probably only part one. I'll be showing you all a little bit more what you can do with yucca in another section, but I want to have to finish up some of the things that I was needing to do with it. So that's all there is to it, making yucca cordage. This is Mr. Ruger Cat 45, and y'all have a good day.